Welcome to The Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Real, taking time out of your day to come watch this episode. I really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe for me. I'd really appreciate that as well. That's the best way you can support this channel and help me grow my content and grow this channel to where I'd like it to be. Everybody hit the like button for me on the way in on this video today. That also helps promote this video more in the algorithms, helps grow this channel more as well. Please share this content. I would really appreciate that. My guests would as well. If you would please share this episode with someone you know that maybe is interested in the topic we're talking about today. Please leave a comment below as well. We'd love to hear your guys' feedback. You can interact with myself and the guest on the panel and the live chat as well. Whatever we're talking about, just leave a comment there in the live chat. Pop in and say hello. We'll put it on the screen for you. And yeah, without further ado, let's get to the show. Welcome back to The Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman. I hope you guys are having a great Monday. Good start to your week. Awesome show planned for you guys today. But before I get into that, like I said there, if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. It's the best way you can support this channel and support your boy. I'd really appreciate that. Like this video so you can really pump in the algorithms. And everybody leave a comment below in today's video. Let me know what you think about today's breaking news and some of the other stuff we're going to get into. So, yeah, in the back half of the show today, we're going to get into Bronny James as the NBA draft is approaching this week. We're going to talk about Bronny James and maybe some places where he can go, some destinations and stuff I've actually heard and seen not only publicly, but even heard privately some stuff as well. I'm going to share some possible clues maybe. So I'll share that in a little bit. And also the Cavs also have a first round pick this week as well, starting Wednesday night in the first round. Second round's Thursday night, excuse me. So I'll share some two names I think the Cavs could be interested in as well. Bronny will probably be in the mix as well. I'll mention him as well for the Cavs. That's a possibility. But two other guys as well I'll mention as possible draft picks for the Cavs. But before we get into that, though, we had some breaking news today. So let's get into the breaking news now here on The Real. And so breaking news today, the Cleveland Cavaliers have hired coach Kenny Atkinson as their new head coach of the franchise. Kenny Atkinson, for the last 3 years, served as an lead assistant for Steve Kerr in Golden State, won the championship in 2022, excuse me. And before that, he was an assistant coach with the LA Clippers for a year before he went to Golden State. He kicked off his career in 2008 and for 4 seasons was with the New York Knicks as an assistant. Then he moved on and continued his career as an assistant coach with the Atlanta Hawks from 2013 2016 for 3 seasons. He took over the job for the pitiful, at the time, Brooklyn Nets, who were very bad in a very bad place at that time. You remember those Brooklyn Nets teams? They were not that good. Kenny Atkinson took them over, and first season was a little rough, went 20-62, and went 28-54 the next year, but had a little more momentum. During that time, he also coached Jared Allen and Karis LeVert, 2 members of the Cavs organization, and by year 3, they were 42-40, made the playoffs. And then KD and Kyrie came to town. They struggled a lot. He just didn't really mesh with that. I don't know if that's really what Kenny actually wanted, to be honest with you, or was expecting that. But he eventually got fired from the Brooklyn Nets. And his overall career coaching record, I think it's like 100 and I think I had it written down. It was like 100 and something wins. So he had more losses than he does wins for his career. He's below 500. I think he's like 380 something. So, interesting hire today. The Cavs hired Kenny Atkinson. And so what do I think of this hire? What do I think maybe happened with this hire? I think 2 things here. I wrote over the weekend that Tom Izzo was highly involved in this process. That Tom Izzo, who Dan Gilbert tried to hire back in 2010 it was at the time. He wanted Tom Izzo. Him and Tom Izzo have been good friends. Tom Izzo, obviously legendary coach at Michigan State all those years. We know Dan Gilbert's connection with the state of Michigan. I think that Tom Izzo was a big influence in this hire. He likes Kenny Atkinson, and that was reported over the weekend. And that Tom Izzo was pushing Dan Gilbert to hire Kenny Atkinson. What Tom Izzo relationship is with Kenny Atkinson, I don't know. I don't know if Kenny was, or Tom was just more of a consultant and was reviewing the situation, or if he has a relationship with Kenny Atkinson. I'm not sure about that. I mean, coaching circles, everybody knows everybody usually. So that's the first thing, is Tom Izzo was a big part of this decision and influencing Dan Gilbert. And then Dan Gilbert himself, So last week I came on this show, and a lot of other people, Brian Windhorst, Jason Lloyd, a lot of people that are really plugged into the Cavs that I respect and I trust their opinion. They're usually pretty on the money. Um, by Wednesday and kind of going into Friday, the feel was that James Borrego was going to get the job, and that it seemed like Kobe Altman really liked James Borrego. It seemed like it was pretty much a done deal that James Borrego it was heading that direction. There was also the rumor last week that I shared in the show that there was the Chris Quinn rumor that came out in the middle of the week last week that Donovan Mitchell's relationship with Dwayne Wade's relationship with Chris Quinn because he's a Miami Heat assistant. Possibly Chris Quinn was going to be involved, and that's who Donovan was pushing for. But I don't know how serious a candidate Chris Quinn ever really was. It sounds like it was Borrego and Atkinson all along, which is what was reported mostly. What was being put out there from the Cavs. So, but Dan Gilbert last Wednesday met with the front office Wednesday, according to Brian Windhorst, and ever since that meeting, it seems like things just shifted Wednesday and going into Friday, going into the weekend. It really shifted back to Kenny Atkinson, and James Borrego just seemed kind of like an afterthought now. And it was Kenny Atkinson's job. Brian Windhorst also pointed out, too, that Donovan Mitchell did sign off on this. He was in contact with both James Borrego and Kenny Atkinson while he was in Europe. And while he also was in Europe, by the way, too, he had a Cavs assistant coach with him, working him out every day, too, for what, I mean, I said Donovan's re-signing all along. He's not going anywhere. It's pretty much a done deal. It's going to be a 4-year, about 208, 209. Last year, he'll have a player option on it. But Donovan was highly involved because he's not going anywhere. He had a Cavs assistant coach, trainer coach with him over in Europe, working him out every day. Um, so yeah, I mean, he's talking to the coaching candidates. So, but he likes Kenny Atkinson. He signed off on it. My whole thing is this: how I kind of see this initially today, and seeing all that happen unfold last week with Dan meeting with the front office, and then it flipping from Borrego to Atkinson just like that. No, Kenny Atkinson, to be fair, he was the first name brought up in this whole process back when JB was fired back in about a month ago. Woj pointed out Kenny Atkinson from the jump. And so um, it flipped over the weekend. Like I said, it was supposed to be Borrego's job, and suddenly it flipped. I think, and I can't wait to hear Mike's opinion on this. I might have some other people joining today as well, maybe a new guest, possibly. But as to me, and I think Mike kind of agrees, it sounds like Dan Gilbert wanted Kenny Atkinson all along. And I think to me, the Tom Izzo influence on this, which was reported over the weekend, was a big factor in all this. I think Donovan probably maybe wanted Kenny Atkinson more because Kenny Atkinson's system, I think what he'll be running when you go watch him in Golden State as well, he's an assistant there, but the offense they run there, and then also the offense they kind of run in when he was back in Brooklyn. It's a lot more up pace, a lot of more tempo, a lot more playing off the ball, a lot more guard friendly, but also utilizing. And Woj reported today as well that according to in the report that Kobe Altman and GM Mike Gansey, one of the things that intrigued them, according to the report about Kenny Atkinson, was his ability to develop players, especially somebody like Evan Mobley. And they listed Evan Mobley as a center in the report, which may be interesting, maybe isn't. I don't know though, because it doesn't sound like Jared Allen's going anywhere. So if Jared Allen doesn't go anywhere, he's just starting center. And Evan's still your 4. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting, but either way, though, I think Kenny Atkinson's system, what he'll be running, will utilize Evan Mobley more as trying to hit more of the corner 3 consistently, which he did a better job of last year. I thought he did a nice job, but also using Evan Mobley more as a playmaker, putting more at the pinch post, high post with the ball in his hand, and letting the guards screen each other off the ball where Evan makes the read, either a cutter to the basket or hitting the guy flashing out to the wing, popping out for the 3. He can fake the pass and go more. And it's using Evan Mobley more as the ball in his hands and allowing the defense to react to what he does with the ball in his hands. And so I think that's part of it. And also I think guys like Amani Bates, guys like that should get more better development now. I think with Kenny in the building, like a guy like Amani Bates with Kenny's system, kind of what Kenny's style is. He's athletic, 6'9", with that kind of scoring ability that he has that you can't teach, really, which is why he's such an intriguing prospect. Now, he didn't play a lot last year, which I kind of didn't agree with. I think he should have played more. I'm not saying you have to play him heavy minutes, but he's not going to develop in the G League. If anything in the G League, he's gonna learn bad habits playing in the G League. To be honest with you, he needs to be up around pros, learning what it's like being an NBA player. But I think having a coach like Kenny Atkinson, I think will unlock a guy like him even possibly get him more in the rotation next year, and see what we got there because I think the upside there is even high. So, but I think Kenny too, his system really fits with Darius and Donovan if they keep the core four together. Now that's what's reported. I'm still kind of skeptical about that, but either way, though, I think it will enable the guard play. It will enable more of Evan Mobley's skill set, overall ability, not just as a, you know, what we've seen from those thus far. I think he has more of a playmaking ability to him, more of a passing big man ability to him. We've seen it at times. I think you can utilize that kind of unicorn kind of skill set for a big guy, and so which I still think he has. He's only 22 years old, so I'm excited about the hire. I think from a basketball standpoint, it's a good hire. Now, how they got to the hire is very interesting. It was a long process. There's a lot of different things coming out now, and that was a Dan Gilbert's guy all along, and that maybe Kobe Altman wanted James Borrego, and Dan said, "Well, I want Atkinson. This is what we're doing." That remains to be seen. It's very interesting to see what comes out in the coming days. So, but they have a head coach. It's Kenny Atkinson. I think Kenny's a good basketball coach. I like that he spent 3 years with the Golden State Warriors. I think you've seen guys like Mike Brown do the same thing. Other coaches in the history, not just in basketball, but in football as well, that sometimes they grow more as a coach and they come back as an even better head coach that end up leading teams to higher successes. So, um, yeah, we'll see what happens. But very interesting today. Kenny Atkinson's the new head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And joining me now to talk about it is the man, the myth, the legend, Mike Walton. Mike.
Hello. Hello, beautiful people.
Well, Mike, you heard my opening comments there, my take on this whole thing.
Indubitably.
I'm curious your thought. I'll give you the floor here. What's your take on the Kenny Atkinson hire? I know you were reading up on it all day today or a little bit ago, and I'm just curious your thoughts on all this.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. I mean, the more I read about it, the more it seems like it was more or less Dan Gilbert's decision, and Kenny Atkinson seems to have been his guy all along. At least that's what I'm getting from everything I've read.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mean, I'm hoping that it wasn't just like, oh, the owner steps in place of, the GM's wishes and, made this decision. Not like I hope it was still collaborative is kind of what I'm getting at. You know what I mean? Like, I hope that
Right.
there was no like weird kind of underhanded stuff that either party was doing, because that's never a good place to start with a new coach. If like, oh, the GM never wanted him in the first place, kind of thing, that's not a good starting point. I don't think that's what happened. I think that the Cavs maybe had just the luxury of getting whoever they wanted because, I mean, it was the best job available.
Right.
If you were a first-time head coach or if you were looking to get back as a head coach, that's the job you wanted, was the Cavs job, which we talked about before. But overall, I mean, he seems like his system might work a little bit better. He's still pretty defensive minded, but what he's learned in Golden State and how to get like shooters open, I'm hoping that's gonna help us exponentially. I do like how Donovan already signed off on him, and it looks like Donovan's going to be here for the long haul. And here, that's the thing I was most worried about. So, yeah, no, I'm intrigued by the hire. I would say, like, personally, he wasn't my first choice. I would have preferred Borrego. Overall, I think I'd prefer Borrego. I get they both would have been retreads, but I think just Borrego's situation in, I believe he was in Charlotte before, was obviously much worse than the situation that Kenny found himself in the first time. So it remains to be seen, but I mean, overall I'm happy with the hire. I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Yeah, I mean, my first choice when this all started, I was a Chris Quinn guy. I was fascinated by his upside.
Mhm.
then as time went on, and plus, I'll be honest, I kind of wanted like somebody new because sometimes you kind of want new flavor, take a risk on somebody because they
Right.
really pop. Because you've seen that work in recent memory, but um, I didn't hate Atkinson or Borrego. I wasn't like against it. And as
Yeah.
time went on, I was like you. I was kind of warming up to Borrego a lot more because I didn't really. Kenny Atkinson's name was kind of just dull for a while. You know what I mean? It seemed like it was Borrego, and then they were interviewing Johnny Bryant, Donovan's boy from New York. Then it was more Chris Quinn smoke, and then it just seemed like Borrego had the job. And then Atkinson's name that was always just kind of there. So, but you didn't really hear much about it. You know what I mean? So it just kind of, kind of quiet
Yeah, it
around his
came out of
name.
nowhere, kind
Yeah,
of a little bit.
2 weeks. Yeah, I mean, the last 2 weeks, if you listen to, I was paying more attention to the Lakers, to be honest with you. So I paid more attention to the Cavs last week and kind of got back into them. But
It's because
um,
the Lakers are a train wreck, and it's fun to watch train wrecks.
yeah, you know what's funny about? At least they didn't do this, Mike. At least they didn't hire a guy. And I got to go on a side rant for a minute. Can I have a minute, Mike, to go on this?
Yeah, feel free. Go.
I'm listening to ESPN today when they break this news on First Take. And Stephen A. Smith goes up there and says, "All right, breaking news about Kenny. Kenny Atkinson's hired as a new Cavs coach, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And he starts going off. He goes, he deserves a job. I'm happy for him. Blah blah blah. Then he brings up Sam Cassell and how Sam Cassell's been an assistant for 15 years, and and he can't get a job yet, and he's still out there. And I'm kind of like, okay, I agree with you, Stephen A. But when your boy JJ Redick, who's your old coworker at ESPN got hired the other day, who right there on the screen, this is what they put on FS1 last week. He was a volunteer 4th grade boys head coach. And he got the head and he drew a couple plays up on a podcast. Every other NBA coach knows those plays too. There wasn't any groundbreaking news on the podcast they shared. Now he's the head coach of the LA Lakers. But because the Cavs hired Kenny Atkinson, who's put his time in for since 2008 as assistant coach, was a head coach already, was with the Warriors and won a championship as the top assistant. The Cavs hire him, but now we want to bring up Sam Cassell and say, well, kind of like kind of making it out like, how come he can't get a job, but Atkinson can? Well, how come JJ Redick, your boy, Steven, they can get a job and you say nothing about it, and anybody else at ESPN and a lot of the past allegations that are coming out about him now too get their allegations, but still, and even hiring Rajon Rondo as an assistant, who I like Rondo the player, but have you seen what's been going on with him off the court recently? It ain't pretty, some of those allegations. All that's okay because they're all their boys. But we hire Kenny Atkinson. Now we want to bring up Sam Cassell. Miss me with the bullshit. I'm just sorry. The hypocrisy. And you see right there in the screen, they'll defend a guy and say he's going to be for a guy who's a 4th grade volunteer boys head coach. Like I was that twice and I'm only 24. I was a 2-time volunteer, third through 5th grade boys head coach before my pass as well. Do I get an NBA job? No. So you know what I mean? So, but
Pretty cool if you did, though.
yeah, but bringing up Sam Cassell today, which I agree, Sam Cassell should have a job. Why don't you say he should have the Lakers job? Because if anybody should have got hired by the Lakers, probably was Sam Cassell or James Borrego, who AD wanted all along as well. And also, doesn't sound like AD's that happy now too about JJ Redick and could be requesting a trade here down the road soon. You heard what Big Kendrick Perkins said that day. They hired him last week. He's going to give it till the All-Star break. There's a reason why Kendrick said that, because it's what's being rumored behind the scenes. JJ Redick has kind of side dissed AD throughout his career as an analyst and stuff, and left him off his all defensive teams this year, Mike. So
I know, I couldn't believe that happened.
But I know I'm off the rails. But that just kind of pissed me off to say a little bit. You know what I mean? Bringing up Sam Cassell like he can't get a job, and he's been in, but because we hired Kenny Atkinson, who's a hell of a lot more qualified than JJ Redick. But now, when JJ Redick got hired,
well, if Sam Cassell is Stephen A's boy, if I wouldn't, if that's my friend, I wouldn't want my friend to get that Lakers job either.
Well,
to
I
be
wouldn't
honest,
either.
that's probably why I didn't bring it up.
But why are you bringing it up when we hire a guy who's qualified, but then when the Lakers don't hire a guy who's not qualified, or hire a guy who's not qualified, then you don't bring it up at all? You know what I mean? It's
Isn't Stephen A like a Lakers hater anyway?
Oh, he loves LA. He's like an LA groupie. He loves LA.
I thought he was a Knicks boy.
Oh yeah, he's a New Yorker at heart, but he likes LA. He said LA the other day was still a better franchise overall than the Celtics.
That makes no sense.
And I'm like, have you seen the difference now? I mean,
maybe once upon a time.
yeah, maybe back in the 80s, or when Kobe was there still. But other than that, I mean,
it's been a minute since
the last 10 years, it's been the Celtics by a mile. But it ain't even close right now either. But I don't know. That was my little side rant there. But anyways, back to Kenny. What do you think of that though dynamic, Mike? What do you think if Kobe Altman wanted James Borrego all along? That was his guy, and that Dan Gilbert, who was more involved this year, which was reported back in when this all started coming out. Remember, Brian Windhorst reported Dan Gilbert's be more involved. What's your take on that? Maybe if that is if that is the case, that Dan Gilbert kind of said, this is who I want. I know you want Borrego, but this is who I want. So that's what we're going with.
Yeah, if that's the case, then I hope that Dan Gilbert did his due diligence. Dan Gilbert has a pretty decent track record for hiring coaches, to be fair. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt as one of the better eyes for talent as an owner when it comes to coaching. I will say that
the only two he flopped on were Beeline and what was the other guy? David Blatt. Was David Blatt really a flop though? Because they went 51 something games, and when they fired him, he was 31-11. Was that more just he didn't fit with LeBron?
I think that's more so what it was, that he didn't fit with LeBron, because that wasn't really. I don't consider Blatt a flop personally.
So really, it was more of Beeline was the flop, obviously. But
yeah, but overall though, he's decent at hiring and seeing talent in coaching. So I'm hoping that this goes well. The biggest thing that I hope is, again, that there wasn't a disconnect, right, between Kobe and Dan. I hope that it was still collaborative, because the last thing we need is drama in the front office, because that never helps any team succeed long term. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the last thing the Cavs need, especially with like a team that is more or less like, you have a core, but you're trying to figure out if that core can like play successfully together. So you're trying to kind of work it all out. And you don't want that extra distraction of like front office drama, when the front office is, supposed to be working collaboratively to basically help the team figure out what they're doing, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think too what this leads to now, it's kind of like an interesting question now, because we've heard Kobe Altman say this is what he wants. We don't want to trade the core four. Maybe he wanted James Borrego. We've seen what Kobe Altman's kind of made it clear what he wants to do. There's even reports too that Kobe Altman really didn't want to fire JB, but that was more of an ownership thing. So there's a lot of rumors swirling around that where you're kind of wondering who's really running the show here. And, all this started when the Brian Windhorst report came out back in, I think I have that up here. Let me pull it up. But back when, he was talking about how Dan Gilbert's be more involved now. And I think I have that right here. And so this was back in May 20th. So almost over, a month ago now. So, it kind of makes it interesting though, because now here we are at the draft, Mike. What do they do for the draft? What are they going to do for free agency? What are they going to do with the offseason? With with trades? Is it what Dan Gilbert wants? What does Dan want to do? So it's very interesting, because if you have a case where your GM is or your president of basketball operations is like, I want to keep these four guys, and I didn't get the coach I wanted, but now you're in a situation where the owner's like, well, I want this coach, and maybe Kobe said, all right, maybe it's 50-50. If that's who you want, Dan, we'll go with him. I trust you. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. But, we'll probably never know publicly, because Kobe Altman's always going to say the right thing. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
he's going to keep it in-house, or he'll just resign if it was a big issue. But I'm really curious to know with the drafts and just kind of like what they do with their players on the roster and the free agency, because, who knows? Is it Dan that wants to swing for the fence? Is it Kobe that wants to keep the core four? You know what I mean? What do you think about all that now going forward? Because it makes it interesting now with what are they going to do now with the most important things, which is the personnel moves.
Right. I think if I was a betting man, I think Dan is more ready to trade off some of those players than Kobe is.
Yeah.
Because, Dan Gilbert kind of sees, because Donovan Mitchell, even if he does sign the extension, he's not going to be here forever. And, you can only have so many young players that still need like time to develop and time to cook and learn different things to succeed. So I could see them wanting to trade off Darius, keep Evan to develop. Jared Allen's pretty much, what Jared Allen's going to be. And then just go from there and kind of cook based off of that. But if I had to guess, I think Dan Gilbert has a little bit more sense of urgency than Kobe Altman, at least at the moment.
Yeah, what's interesting about that too is, I've heard too, like I think Jason Lloyd said it on the Ultra Cleveland Sports Show too, who won an Emmy by the way over the weekend. Shout out to
Oh,
them.
I saw that. Congratulations.
Yeah, shout out to you, Earl, if you're watching. I know Earl's tuned in a couple times. Shout out to Earl. Shout out to G. Bush, Mikey McNuggets, all those guys. Great show. But yeah, they won an Emmy. Shout out to them. But Jason Lloyd made a hell of a point one time. He goes, if I'm Donovan, you take the money regardless because it's the money, right? It's there. You take as much money as you can get. But even if he signs the contract, doesn't mean you have to stay all, players have leverage now in this league. So
Oh, yeah.
I think Mitchell could be in a point where I think, from what I've seen, this is my own personal opinion, I think that him and Dan Gilbert have a really good relationship.
I agree.
I think that's been growing off the court, and I think Dan has kind of learned from the past with LeBron and Kyrie. I think he's really done a nice job with pleasing Donovan Mitchell and trying to get to know him, become closer with him. And I think Donovan has his trust. And I think Donovan's telling him, I'll sign the extension, but this is what I want done. Because now you're seeing reports out there that Donovan wants to keep Jared Allen, right? And that's what he wants. I think that didn't come out of thin air. I think that was probably from his camp, I would assume. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, so I could totally see. That's why I see. But that's where I think the kind of where all this lies is. I think Dan and Donovan, I think, are kind of doing their own thing, and I think Kobe Altman's kind of like in the middle of it. He has kind of what he would like to do, but it's more of, at the end of the day, the owner gets what he wants. It's his team, and and Donovan is, I think, in his ear and got a good relationship with him.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. And here you should want a good relationship with your best player. So if that's the case, yeah, let Dan and Donovan cook. Like, I know they know what's best for the team overall. I would say even better than probably Kobe. Kobe, I like Kobe, don't get me wrong. He's a patient GM, but sometimes patience isn't what necessitates a winning team. And I think maybe Dan and Donovan see something in the team that Kobe just doesn't at the moment. So
yeah, it's interesting. I think Kobe GMs that draft their players. He drafted Darius Garland. He drafted Evan Mobley. This was his team he put together. Because remember, Dan Gilbert hasn't been involved.
right.
He had the incident. He had this health incident. And he hasn't been involved. So now he's back involved again. And so I think Kobe, this is the team he's built. He wants to live and die on this team because it's, his job on the line ultimately. So, you know how it is when we cover sport. You see it all the time. Guys want, well, maybe this is their team they built. They get a little prideful. Like, I don't want to. I believe this will work. I still believe. He's been doing this like 2-guard thing forever. Well, first it was Darius and Colin. Then he traded Colin and got obviously a better player than Donovan. He's been trying to do this smaller like 2-guard thing for a long time. And so I think, though, they're at a point now. I think Donovan, if you haven't heard Donovan say, I want to keep Darius, I want to keep Jared Allen, right? Because he's a mobile big man and he can do a lot of things that it's hard to find someone else that can do that. I think he knows Evan he's shown that he can shoot the outside three. I think that with the new offense now, too, that Kenny Atkinson will bring in, I think Evan and Jared Allen will be better together, I think. Because you look at Golden State, Draymond Green was always he's not the best shooter. And I'm not saying Evan has the abilities that Draymond Green has passing wise, but he can do some similar things. You know what I mean? They always had a big man, and Draymond was at the 4. Draymond's not the greatest shooter by any means. sometimes he passes up open threes. So,
Right.
but that system enables where you can have two bigs out there that maybe aren't the greatest shooters, but they can work together. But you have to have bigger and better guards, I think, like better defensively. Um, and I think that's where they're going to be, or even more Waynes. You have to have a good Waynes, and I think now you're seeing like the report that came out yesterday from Greg Schwartz about Darius Garland could be a surprise trade asset now for a guy like Paul George, even or Jimmy Butler, or who knows if LeBron signs and trades back. I think Darius probably heading to LA, so he is a clutch client. So you know what I mean. You're hearing all this now, so. I don't know. What do you think of that though? Paul George or Jimmy Butler? We've talked about LeBron at length, obviously.
Right.
But if LeBron does stay in LA or go elsewhere, what do you think of that? Because I
Jimmy
think
Butler, I think if we got Jimmy Butler, I think that's a recipe for a championship. I think Jimmy Butler is one of the most I don't know why he's so underrated, but he's extremely underrated. He's willed Miami to what, 2 championships or like
2 finals appearances.
Yeah, 2 finals appearances. I'm sorry, that's what I meant. And that's just based off of his talent. Don't get me wrong, I like Bam Adebayo, I like their shooting, but really it's all Jimmy Butler. I think you put Jimmy Butler on this team and then just do a little bit at a couple of better bench pieces. And I think that's a recipe to win the East. I really do.
So what do you think of Paul George possibility with that report from Greg Schwartz?
Don't get me wrong, I like Paul George. I do think he's, I don't want to say like washed. That's such a bad word. I do think he's not the same Paul George that we all knew and kind of idolized. I would be kind of remiss unless like the trade compensation was far less, which I could see it being. Just because Paul George is a touch older, he has had some pretty nasty injuries. I wouldn't mind Paul George if like the trade compensation made sense, but really that's what it would come down to for me.
Yeah, Paul George averaged 22 points last year, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, a 47% shooting. I mean, I like Paul George a lot. I think he'd be great here. I think he kind of fits a need, but I am intrigued though because you have Donovan Mitchell who has the ball a lot of most of the time in his hands. You know what I mean? So I'm really interested though in the Jimmy Butler side of it because I think he gives you defense, elite defense. I think he gives you a guy who can play off the ball as well. He's a selfless kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
I like his mentality as well. I think he's a good leader. So I think him and Donovan would probably actually do well with each other, like balance each other.
Yeah.
And Donovan's been linked to Miami many times. And so I think there is a connection there between those two. And so I actually think too, I think Jimmy would be the easier one to get. Because Paul George is he's a free agent. So if he goes anywhere, if he leaves LA, it's probably gonna be Philly. It sounds like.
He's a free agent. Okay, that kills my argument. I had no idea.
Well, they said if he did come to Cleveland to be by sign and trade, he would match basically. You know, what I mean, Darius' contract and it'd be a swap. So, but I don't know if he would come here. I think he's more. I see Paul George if he leaves, he's going to Philly. It sounds like that's what it looks like to me. So Philly's got the most money. Him and Joel, they were up on the finals show together. Joel gave him that little wink too, like, come on over here if you do leave. So I think
Philadelphia is that one team that I don't think is ever going to win anything.
I don't know either. They're always, it's like every year it's like Philly, Philly, Philly. They just never, it's either an injury or they just fall short.
Joel Embiid is the Dak Prescott of the NBA.
Damn.
I'm gonna stand on my laurels when I say that. Joel Embiid is the Dak Prescott of the NBA. Really fun to watch in the regular season, and then he gets to the playoffs and he crumples like a goddamn crouton. He can't get it done. I don't think he'll ever get it done. And just like Dak Prescott, I don't think Dak Prescott is ever going to win anything substantial. Do I think he's a good quarterback? Absolutely. Do I think he is going to ever win a championship? No.
Yeah, is Joel Embiid ever going to do what Jokic did? Probably not.
No.
He's not the Jokic kind of guy. But I agree with you. I kind of think this Philly thing's always been kind of like a, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's ever going to work to me. You know what I mean? Just how many new head coaches, trades. It's just like up and down, up and down. It's been the process for like what 15 years now.
Yeah.
So, or however long it's been. It's been forever. So, yeah, I agree with you. But I do think he does probably, if he does leave, he probably is going to Philly, which that kind of makes sense. That's kind of like a place for a guy like they would get a Paul George. But I think the easiest one to get is probably Jimmy. And I think Jimmy is on the market. I think he's what Pat Riley said at the end of the season about him. I think it seems like he's definitely out of town. They're not going to pay him the money he wants. So if the Cavs do acquire him, they'll have to pay him. But I mean, they're already paying Darius. So I mean, you're basically just swapping players. So
Right. The only downside to that is I don't want to say Jimmy Butler is a diva because I don't think he is. I will say I don't think Jimmy Butler gets along with a lot of people. I just hope that like he could get along with Kenny Atkinson. Because I mean I watched something where like a player who had played with Jimmy Butler, they were in some sort of coaches meeting and like Jimmy Butler just openly basically told the coach to like screw himself. So
yeah, well, I think he's been in some situations where I think he didn't fit. Like the Minnesota thing, he never fit. That was a bad, right? Too many.
That's like a fever dream. I can't believe that happened.
He had the problem there was he had too many young guys. You know what I mean? It was too many
Yeah,
young
was it
guys.
what Andrew Wiggins? That was
Karl-Anthony Towns was young. He just had too many young guys, and that's not a good recipe for success.
Oh, I know, and he was pissed off all the time.
But in Philly, though, last time he was in like in a situation kind of similar to the Cavs was in Philly, and he did well. It's just Philly just didn't pay him. They just chose not to pay him for some reason. There was a mistake.
If Jimmy Butler would have stayed on that team, they would have won a championship. I'll say that.
Philly made the mistake of not paying him. They messed up there. That wasn't his fault. That was Philly's fault. And Philly being Philly, they chose Ben Simmons
over him. It was someone silly.
Ben Simmons.
Yep. Poor Ben.
And Tobias Harris they paid.
You know, Tobias Harris had all of the potential in the world. Didn't work out, obviously, but
he's a solid player, but he's not worth $30-something million a year.
Yeah, I can't believe that just downfall of Ben Simmons. You want to talk about like, I know I keep going back to like NFL references, but like that's what I do. Who would you say is the NFL equivalent to Ben Simmons?
Man, that's the NFL equivalent to Ben Simmons.
Oh, I think I got one.
It's gotta be a quarterback, I would think, who's always hurt.
It's gonna be. I think he's Matt Ryan.
Yeah, Matt Ryan though Matt Ryan was a dude for a while. He had success.
He was a dude for one season.
It's kind of. I want to say Andrew Luck, but Andrew Luck was a bad dude when he was healthy.
Yeah.
I think it's injury wise. I'd say more Andrew Luck. Like he's just got like medically he can't play anymore. Like I don't think Ben Simmons. He may never play again. From what it sounds like. I don't. He's just. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know if we'll ever get back to that. But I mean, I have to think of like a guy. I mean, you're talking maybe Jamarcus Russell.
See, but Jamarcus Russell was never good. Like Ben Simmons won Rookie of the Year. He was like averaging like 20, but then he didn't put in the work to try and fix his jump shot. Never fixed his jump shot.
Well, not bringing the phone to practice and pull. You know, what I mean he had a lot of drama too. Like there's just a lot of drama with him. I don't know. I mean, I kind of like.
He's going to be great in Ice Cube's Big 3 league. I do know that.
I don't know if he can play in that. It's too physical for him. He's gonna get hurt. His back's so bad. I mean, I don't think he can play again. I think he's done.
I love that shit.
What, the Big 3?
Yeah, Ice Cube's league.
I've seen it here and there. I've watched a little bit of it.
It's fun. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's very physical. But yeah,
Mike
I don't know.
I
know he's swollen now too. Dude's jacked.
Oh, he's always been Mike the Hulk Bigby, dude. That's what he's always been doing.
Yeah, but I am interested though, Mike, to see this week is the draft week, Mike.
Yes, it is.
There's some big names in this draft. You got, I think the biggest name of all of them, even though he may not be the best player, is Bronny James. He's the headline of the draft. He's the head. You know what people want to see happens with him. And so we were just here to talk about the Cavs and possible scenarios, and what could they do this offseason. Well, I've been on this show talking about the possibility of LeBron coming back to Cleveland, right? And so we've just been, I threw out some stuff, maybe some clues, maybe some hints on this show for the past like month. Maybe
Hypotheticals, if you will.
hypotheticals, not saying for sure. I never said for sure because like you never want to say for sure to anything, especially when it comes to this stuff. But anything
Right.
LeBron, it ain't a done deal until it's a done deal. But we were looking at the possibility of that LeBron coming back home again, and so over the weekend, some people I heard from and then stuff pointed out the Dallas Mavericks to me again, the Phoenix Suns as well, and the Lakers, obviously, and that it was from what I've been told and what I've heard is that the Lakers are definitely trying to do whatever they can to build this team around LeBron to try to appease him, to try to get him to stay. It sounds like to me. That's why they hired JJ Redick because it doesn't. From what I've heard, like some other people on YouTube, some guys who are plugged in pointed out that it doesn't sound like even Jeannie Buss really wanted to hire JJ Redick. That they just did it just to because he's a name. It keeps him in the headlines. The Celtics just won a championship. So they need something like hot. You know what I mean? And that it could appease LeBron. I think they're assuming that that's what LeBron wants. But what I've told though, if you want to get LeBron, it still is the better choice. Is just wherever his son goes, that's where LeBron's probably going to be. That's what I heard, and that's what's been reported for a while. So, again, not saying I'm some insider or anything. It's just what I heard. I thought it was interesting that the person who said it got some knowledge of it. Your thoughts on that? Because Rich Paul came out last week, Mike. You remember he said this, that the Lakers can draft Bronny and LeBron doesn't re-sign. And it's not a guarantee that they're not a package deal, right? And so I'm wondering now if Rich Paul is just trying to blow that smoke up. Like he's trying to cool the fan or cool down the situation a little bit. You know what I mean? He's trying to put that out there like, hey, we're not a package deal. But if it does happen, great. You know what I mean? Kind of like just cooling it down a little bit.
And like here, I think too that
from what I was told, what I believe now, and I think they are a package deal. They've always been a package deal. That I don't think LeBron, Mike, and I'll let you go. My thought on all this is I don't think LeBron really does have an idea where he wants to go, and I really believe that. I think he really is going to be a real free agent. I think in the past 3 times he's made moves and left to a different franchise.
He understands where he's going and everything.
You knew a year or two in advance he was going there. You would start seeing signs. You would start, you start hear rumblings, and he would start acting certain. You could tell. I think we're really in a situation right now where he's kind of like, hey, I prefer maybe to stay in LA because I like it out here, but I don't know about the team. This option's kind of good. Who's going to give my son the guaranteed contract? I think it's really a really fluid situation. And I really do. And I think that's the first time his career he's ever been like in this situation.
Right. Because again, like he really doesn't know who's going to draft his son, like he can maybe have a couple ideas, but does he really know for sure who's going to draft Bronny? Probably not. I know he's tried to go on record and say that if it's Orlando, he will not. We won't go. So against going to the Magic, which I think is hilarious.
I do think they will. They do have somewhat of the power. Rich Paul did this last year with Derek Lively, who was his client, the center.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually said it today on the Gills Arena show episode today, which Paul was on. He even said it. He goes, I wanted Lively to end up in Dallas, and he ended up in Dallas because he had a good relationship with the owner, with the GM there, Nico Harrison, which he had said recently. And he probably told Nico, hey, I got a client who can really fit you guys well. So I do think there is some of that going on. They're telling teams, like, I think Bronny can fit with you here. This is what we like, what we want him to be. This is the kind of contract we want. And so I think LeBron, though, this whole thing is holding the league hostage, I think. It's holding the whole league hostage. It really is. Because whatever happens Wednesday night, and I do think there's a good shot he gets taken in the first round Wednesday night. I really believe that. Because if they're saying they're only taking a guaranteed contract, guaranteed guys in the 50s, you look at the Suns, especially the Lakers, Mavs, and Cavs, their second round picks are all in the 50s. There's 60 picks in the draft. So that's damn near the last pick in the draft. Those guys don't get guaranteed deals ever. You know, you don't give those guys guaranteed deals. So he's probably going to get taken in the first round. I think Wednesday night he'll get taken. And I'm curious, the Lakers are at 17, the Cavs are at 20. I think the Phoenix Suns are at 22. And I don't know if Dallas even has the first. If they do, it's in the late 20s. So I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I feel like the Cavs could swing it. Like, I feel like it's. I mean, you've kind of said it before on the show where it's easier to stomach taking Bronny at 20 than it would be 17 or in the teens or anything like that.
It's easier to take him to Cleveland than it would be the Lakers.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the reaction I've heard from LA about the JJ Redick hire for overall, you got your LeBron fans that are like, oh yeah, but I think there's a lot of like the real Lakers fans. A lot of them they're not watching anymore, Mike. They said they're done until this is over. Like
really, all LeBron stuff.
Yeah, like just LeBron leaving LA, hiring JJ Redick. There's a lot of Lakers fans that are fed up with it, and you're seeing the reports now too. I mean, you even saw some of this before he even got hired. When the Dan Hurley stuff came out, several Lakers players reported don't like JJ Redick's attitude. Right, that's from John Fana, who's very plugged in. It was actually on Multiclude Sports Show today. Right, and so there was that report, and then there was the whole. If I can find it, I'm going back way back now. The Lakers won't go in on LeBron this summer, although I think now they're kind of getting a little desperate. But there was the other report too about how Anthony Davis didn't want JJ Redick, right? And so I don't know. I'm just curious. It's very interesting because if I'm the Lakers, oh yeah, right here. Rich Paul said the Lakers should be, and Rich Paul even said the Lakers should focus more on Anthony Davis than LeBron at this point. And so the players didn't want JJ Redick. Anthony Davis clearly doesn't seem that he doesn't really like JJ Redick. He wanted James Borrego. That was the report I was looking for. He wanted Borrego, not Redick. And Rich Paul told the Lakers, go for Anthony Davis, build around him and what he wants, not LeBron. But here the Lakers are, it's almost like from what I've heard too, trying to appease LeBron and do all this. So but if I'm the Lakers at 17, though, and your fan base is already pissed off, how do you take a kid at 17 who I think he's better than what he played last year? I think he has good NBA talent. I think a lot of it was just coming off of what happened to him last summer mentally.
Right. And the only ones who I feel like are, how do I say, misinterpreting what Bronny can be are, I feel like, NBA fans. Because
they just don't like his father.
Or they don't, yeah. But I mean, Bronny is very candid about what he thinks he can be in the NBA.
And it's very realistic, too.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I think I'm,
Drew Holiday, Derek White.
Kind of Drew Holiday, Derek White, maybe backup point guard kind of deal. And it's like, I think, for one, I think that shows a good level of maturity for a rookie to hey,
ability.
Exactly. Hey, I know who my dad is, this, that, and the other, but I'm, not unaware of my limitations, how he's not going to be the second coming of his dad.
He has a good mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, when you look at the Lakers, he's not going to play there. They just paid Gabe Vincent money. Gabe Vincent didn't play this year because he was hurt, but they paid him last summer. That's their backup point guard, is Gabe Vincent. So he's not going to play there. He's not going to get any run there. Because you have him on a guaranteed contract, he's not going to the G League. He's going to be on your bench. Whether he plays or not, he's going to be on your bench if you draft him. Learning, and eventually here and there he gets some playing time. He's not going to the G League. I think they've made that clear too. When you're saying we only want guaranteed money, that means we're not going to the G League either. So that's how that works. So the Lakers, to me, I get it. I think the Lakers are more just a thing because his dad's technically under contract there, and people are assuming that LeBron wants to go back there because they can pay him the most money. But he ain't gonna play on the Lakers team. They paid Gabe Vincent. I mean, are you gonna just trade him out? I mean, you just paid him, and so I don't see that working. You go to the Mavericks, they got Kyrie, they got the backup point, they got Josh Green, they got the other guy they played too. I don't see where he gets on the court in Dallas either, right? Phoenix to me makes sense because Phoenix needs everything. They have no bench. So Phoenix is a great opportunity for him because he's got open, I mean, he could go in there and do whatever he wants because it's open opportunity off that bench. Who's on their bench? We don't even know. I mean, they're so top heavy in Phoenix. It's KD, Beal, Booker, and Nurkic, and then everybody else. We don't know. You know what I mean? So Phoenix does make sense. And then you look at the Cavs, Mike. They don't really have a true backup point guard.
Not really, no. It's kind of like when Darius was out, you had Donovan running the point. We really never did.
Ty Jerome didn't really do. I mean, he's okay, but he's not really. He's not.
I do like Craig Porter Jr.
I like Craig Porter Jr. a lot, but he didn't. I think that maybe more the coaching staff. But Bronny, though, I think has more of an opportunity in Phoenix or Cleveland.
I agree.
And I think now too with Kenny Atkinson as well, his background on player development, especially with guards. I mean, I think that fits pretty well. I mean, and it's not like the organization doesn't know Bronny. He's the kids have run around the organization for years in the building. I mean, they know him very well.
Right.
And he's got some close family friends as the assistant GM. So, I mean, I don't. And some of the guys the Cavs retained, they did retain some coaching staff guys on their previous staffs. I think some of the guys are from other staffs too, possibly all the way back to Ty Lue. So they've retained some guys as well. So. I don't know. I mean, what do you think Bronny ultimately gets picked on Wednesday night? I think we both agree it's gonna be a first rounder, right?
Yeah.
Or do you think otherwise?
I don't think otherwise. I am a little bit more up in the air about it. I mean, it really depends. Like it's one of those things. Like obviously, if you're picking Bronny in the first round, you expect LeBron to come in. You're looking to win a championship, right? Because
right.
I don't like Phoenix is a team that I don't think. If it's a question of if you get LeBron, is that all you needed, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you pick Bronny,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say if you pick Bronny, you get LeBron. Is that truly all you needed? Because I think we're gonna be surprising how many teams might actually pass on Bronny, just knowing like, hey, we're not gonna. I don't want to say waste, but we're not gonna spend a first round pick on Bronny to get LeBron just because we're farther away than that. I could see maybe Phoenix taking that route because I think Phoenix has a lot more needs.
Well, I think that's why too. You go back to what Rich Paul said the other day, and I think I have that up here still, right here. He mentioned there at the end, LeBron's also not going to Phoenix for a minimum deal. He didn't say he wouldn't go to Phoenix. He said just not for a minimum deal, right? And so I think when he said all this the other day, I think what he was really saying was just because you draft Bronny doesn't mean LeBron's going there, which I think it's a leverage play, which is, hey, if you're Toronto and you draft Bronny, LeBron's not going to Toronto. I hate to break it to you. So you're wasting your time. It's basically what he's saying. And what he's also saying is to Phoenix, I think, is if you want LeBron, you're probably going to have to trade Bradley Beal to the Lakers straight up for him. Because it would match the money. The kind of money Beal makes is what LeBron wants.
Yeah.
So in that $30 million a year kind of range, or maybe more. So basically, I think that's pretty much what he was saying. If you want to draft Bronny, you're probably gonna have to get rid of Bradley Beal. Plus, it'll make the roster better because now you can put LeBron up top. He's got KD on one side. He's got Booker on the other. They can all kind of interchange each other. They got Nurkic down low. We got Bronny on the bench. You know what I mean? So. Right. I think that's kind of what he was saying. And he also threw in there the Mavs thing. I think the Mavs, I said the Mavs in this show. You remember last year we were talking about the Mavs as an option. And they've been an option, I think, for 2 years now. They've been in just been considered. So, but again, I just don't know what their real plan is for Bronny. Is it okay if he sits for a year and just develops off the bench? I mean, where he may not play a lot? I mean, that might be what you're looking at.
I don't know. I mean, really, I feel like LeBron maybe has 2 more years. I feel like the contract is. I feel like, and I don't know if you just let him develop and just sit him. I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. It's a good question, though. It's a good conundrum.
So where do you think he gets picked Wednesday night? You had to bet. I think the Cavs could take the 2 guys. I want to play real quick. The Cavs could Tristan Da Silva, 6'9" guy out of Colorado. And the guy out of Kansas, I think, could be an option. Johnny Furphy, who I like. Those are two guys I like if they don't take Bronny for the Cavs. Both 6'8", could shoot, athletic. But go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, I think the Cavs could take a swing on Bronny. Like, LeBron, I mean, here, I don't think this is realistic per se, but let's say you draft Bronny, you get LeBron, and then, like, you get a Paul George who's a free agent and pay him the money. Like, you're just buying a championship, which I think LeBron sharing a ring with his son more than anything would be really important to him. So
yeah,
I could see the Cavs taking him. I do think whoever takes him, if he is taken in the first round, it would be in the teens.
You think he's going in the teens?
Yeah.
So you think the Lakers probably could be the option at 17 then?
I don't think they will though. I just got an itchy feeling.
I don't think they will either. I mean, I mean, I don't know. They just hired JJ Redick as their head coach, so you don't know. But
I don't know. The Lakers situation is just so weird for me.
Yeah,
like they could because I don't know what the hell they're going to do.
LA.
Yeah, I feel like they're the most misran like organization in all of sports. Like I know I brought up Dallas earlier because I make the Cowboys are just a perfect like example where they do things for the hype and the hooting and the hollering, if you will, rather than the actual like sports reasons. But at least Mr. Jerry Jones like wants to win. Again, I look at what they're doing in LA and I don't see like, oh yeah, this is going to lead to winning basketball. I don't see that, you know?
Yeah, I don't either. They're not a player or two away either. I mean, there's no moves they can make. They're not getting DeJounte Murray. They're not getting Trae Young. They're not getting any. Nobody wants their scrap pieces. We've said it before. You had your famous rant 2 weeks ago. We don't want your scrap. A pack of smokes for Darius Garland and teriyaki beef jerky. But you know,
gas station teriyaki beef jerky.
For half a pack of Newport, she said. So
yes,
yeah, that's what we don't want that. So. I don't think anybody else does either. But I might throw this scenario out to you, Mike. You look on the screen there. He mentioned Minnesota, Dallas, Toronto, LA, Phoenix, right? That's all the names we've seen with Bronny. Mm-hmm. We haven't really seen the Cavs publicly linked to Bronny.
Right.
I think a lot of that could be because the Cavs haven't had a coach in place, obviously. I think the Lakers, you can throw the Lakers out there because his dad's technically still under contract with the Lakers. But we haven't heard a lot of the Cavs because they didn't have a coach in place. And so maybe now that the Cavs have a coach in place, what if tomorrow we wake up and 24 hours for the draft and knowing this, that Dan Gilbert seems to be very much involved in running a lot of this right now. You don't think Dan Gilbert want to take a swing on Bronny, knowing he can get LeBron back, or knowing what the buzz that would be, how much money that would, or interest that would generate in the city of Cleveland? LeBron James' son coming to play with the Cavs.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't. This is just my opinion. Is what if we wake up tomorrow morning now the Cavs all of a sudden are a team at 20? The Cavs have also been rumored to try to trade up in the teens as well. So
the Cavs would totally trade up to make sure they got Bronny. I will say that Dan Gilbert, if he has his heart set, if he has his mind set on something, he'll figure it out. And he's always been that kind of owner.
If we woke up tomorrow morning, the Cavs were the team are being heavily linked to him now.
Well, then
Wednesday morning.
Get ready for your storybook ending, LeBron, because that's exactly what it would be. I think they would do everything in their power to win a championship.
Yeah,
I think.
What do you think of that? Do you think that could be a possibility too? Why we haven't heard much about it, because we didn't have a coach in place, but now that they do, they can put more stuff out there.
I mean, yeah, no, I agree with that, because there was never any guarantee that whoever you hired LeBron would because I feel like that's still going to be an important piece. Like, does LeBron like Kenny Atkinson? I assume maybe he does. He likes the Golden State system. He likes Steve Kerr. So Steve Kerr prototype. I mean, it remains to be seen. But yeah, no, if we trade up for Bronny, if Dan Gilbert has his heart set on, I want LeBron back in Cleveland, he can make it happen. It's just a matter of will he.
Yeah. How much of it do you think does Dan Gilbert not want LeBron? What if LeBron showing up at that game was his way of signaling, I'm interested in coming back? But what if Dan Gilbert doesn't want LeBron back because Dan Gilbert's trying to win without LeBron?
I mean, I feel like that was a honest talking point before, but I really feel like, I mean, the Cavs haven't won a championship without LeBron, true, but it's hard to win championships, and we've at least gotten back to the point where we're a perennial playoff team. Like, the Cavs aren't a bad team without LeBron.
No, they're a top 5 team in the East every year.
Yeah, so I think that kind of, I feel like that was real. That was a real talking point. And, Woj reported on it years ago that was kind of like a thing they wanted to do. Like, hey, we're going to do it without LeBron. I feel like that's done and over with. I feel like people have moved on from that kind of drama. I don't think it's a talking point anymore in Cleveland. So I feel like if there was any sort of animosity, if you will, or any sort of like hard feelings, I feel like they're pretty much gone. I don't feel that's the case anymore. If it was, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't either. I don't think Dan Gilbert either would be like, you know what, I want to win without LeBron. I need to prove that. You don't need to prove that. A smart owner wants to generate as much money as possible.
And and the Cavs are successful. We're a successful team without him. Like, if he wanted to prove that, he already did. Like, winning a championship in the NBA is hard. You successfully rebuilt your team in what, 3-4 years?
Yeah, and everybody said you were going to be a laughing stock for the next 5-10 years, and not only that, he got Donovan Mitchell here. He got the trade done. He got him here. Right. Not only that, he's going to have him re-sign.
Right.
The day you and I came up here and broke the Donovan Mitchell news, reacted to that day 2 years ago almost. What was the thing everybody was saying that day? Oh, he's going to leave in 2 years. Right. Well, here we are 2 years later. He ain't leaving.
Certainly doesn't look like it.
No, he ain't leaving. It's done. Now, I think it's probably that could get announced any moment now. Be honest with you, I think it's probably it sounds like it's done. Now the Cavs can't actually like legally announce it until July 6th by the new CBA rules. So when it comes out, Woj will report it as, it seems like they've agreed on terms. Pascal Siakam, he's agreed to his contract extension with the Pacers, right? But they can't announce it until July 6th. So that's the new rule. So there is a lot of newness in all this this offseason because of the new CBA. So, you know what, man? Because they actually did hire Kenny Atkinson today, I don't want to be a homer. Because here's how I look. I could see LeBron staying in LA and just riding off in the sunset, Yeah. And they take Bronny. They took JJ Redick, and I could see. I never ruled that out. I could totally see that. But I just think that's a sad ending. Like, you've kind of seen the reaction to the JJ Redick hire. It's like what Paul Pierce said on his pod. It's almost like a script. It almost looks not real. Like, it looks kind of like this is a clown show now, not trying to win championships. You know what I mean? It's not about winning championships anymore. Yeah. And they're not a move away. If they got DeJounte Murray, they're better, but they're not. That doesn't get them over the hump.
No, I don't think so either.
Drafting Bronny doesn't help. You know what I mean? That ain't gonna help. So I just don't see, unless he just wants to get as much money as he wants and just rides off in this play with my son story sunset in LA. I mean, hey, best of luck to you, but I don't. There's not gonna be any championships coming out of that. I don't see. Maybe win another in-season tournament, but nobody cares about that.
Right.
I just think, to me, I don't think he would go play with Kevin Durant. To me, that's a bad look. I don't know about you, but he's kind of been like your rival at one point in your career, and you join him. You know what I mean? I don't think that would. I don't see that happening. Dallas is interesting. I just don't know how Dallas can acquire LeBron, because I don't know how the money, even if they did a sign and trade, I don't know how Dallas can match that. You know what I mean? Salary wise. So
right.
I'm not even sure about Dallas. I think the Cavs still make the most sense. They offer you the championship contending team. You're in the Eastern Conference. You can still play with your son. I think it's a better story because it's back home, and they can trade the asset and match the money due to sign and trade. You can still get the money. Darius, who's a clutch client, goes to a better situation for himself out in LA, and now you're ready to roll. So And not only that, the Cavs can take him in the first round at 20, and nobody's going to really care.
Right.
So, I mean,
the
and the Cavs have the more proven coach. And Kenny Atkinson, you cannot tell me Kenny Atkinson's not a better hire than J.J. Redick. And I ain't even close.
No, I agree with that sentiment wholeheartedly.
And I'm going to say the Cavs get him just because it seems to me Dan Gilbert's doing all the shots now. And if Dan Gilbert has a shot at taking him, if Dan Gilbert really wants to go all in, I think Dan takes him. I got a hunch. Could be wrong, but I agree with you, Mike. I think he takes him.
Hell yeah.
So
what can we say? We're always right. We're always right.
Yeah, and you were right about Stefanski. You know,
I was.
You want to remind people?
I was right about Kevin Stefanski. I was right about Andrew Barry. I was right. I'm gonna be right moving forward about the Cleveland Browns. If you are interested in Cleveland Browns news, just listen to what I have to say, because I'm plugged. I'm right. I got my plug, dude.
Got my plug.
Got my plug for my Cleveland Browns.
A month away from training camp, Mike.
I know. Actually, less than a month now.
Yeah. How about the Guardians as well?
We're cooking, dude. Stephen Kwan and Josh Naylor are going to cost our entire salary cap, but we're going to be fine. Stephen Kwan's got to calm down. He's batting like .430 right now. He's got like 10 home runs. He's like, he's got to chill out. Like, I like him. I love him. We might make the World Series this year because of our players, but he's got to chill out. He's pricing himself out of us.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they can go out, I mean, they're going to get Gavin Williams back. I think that's like adding a midseason trade. But if they can get one more arm, and they can get that kind of, if they can go out and get, remember 16 when they went out and got Miller time?
Yeah.
I think they can go out and get that kind of Miller time kind of trade. I think they're really cooking.
I mean, I'm of the mindset of the Guardians are never going to do anything to improve outside of the draft. So that's where I'm keeping my brain. Like everybody always gets so excited, all these Cleveland fans, about like, oh, it's the MLB, trade deadline. And it's like, what? We do this every year, bro. We do this every year. We get excited and the Guardians do nothing because that's what they do. They have a salary cap of a McDonald's franchise. And you guys think that they're gonna trade for like Mike Trout? Come on, let's be realistic, people. I love my Guardians too. We have one of the best farm systems in baseball, but we are not trading for anybody. We're not going to do it. It's not because we can't, it's because we won't. It's just the way it is. Accept it.
Yeah, there was like this. I heard people today talk about like the Guardians are by far the best ran franchise in all of the town, and even close. And I'm like, well, they are. Maybe from a front office standpoint and coaching standpoint,
I don't even know about that. I think it's more
nice
so
like your owner would go all in. I mean, this is the year to go all in.
He's not going to do it.
Pick it. Go all in. Go out and get that arm, because you got to go get. You got to get to the Yankees. That's a big ass payroll. So. And a 7-game series or whatever it is. So
if we stay healthy and we get lucky with pitching, because that is our weakest kind of situation we got going right now until Gavin Williams comes back. Until that happens, we can win. We could go to the World Series. We got all the hitters we need. We got
Naylor,
the defense
Ramirez,
outside of pitching. Yeah. I mean, you got Jimenez. You got Ramirez, you got Kwan, you got David Fry, who's another dog. You got Josh Naylor, Bo Naylor. You got people everywhere. And now you got Dan Schneidman, who we called up last month, and he's already recorded 2 homers, and he's been getting on base. He's batting like .330. You brought up, oh my God. Rodriguez, who's also been hitting. I'm kind of sad that Manzardo didn't work out, but he got sent back down to Columbus. But Dan Schneidman looks to be working out, and he's been playing really, really well on second base in place of Rocchio, who's, he's okay. But you got Freeman, who's an absolute just power hitter. Will Brennan's okay sometimes. But, yeah, no, this team is well put together outside of, like, having a decent amount of pitching. Like, we have one really good pitcher, a handful of okay ones, amazing closers, and that's your pitching room.
Yeah.
I mean, Clase, I still think is top 3 closer in all of baseball, but it's just kind of a matter of what are we going to do? You know, like,
Will they have the MVP and Coach of the Year? Ramirez MVP.
Ramirez is always going to be in the MVP conversation. He's having a great year so far.
I think Steven Vought's definitely winning Coach of the Year.
I agree with that. I mean, a Manager of the Year in baseball.
Or, yeah, Manager. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I know what you meant, but yeah, no, Steven Vought's got that lockdown. I mean, you take a team that, like, you know, you're losing Tito retires, and, you know, Terry Francona's legendary,
and they improve offensively.
And you improve. You take that team and you improve it, and you're taking these guys that were like good prospects, and you're turning them into real baseball players. Like David Fry, people forget, we got from the Padres for an 8th round pick. There are 8 rounds in baseball. And so we got him for the equivalent of nothing, and he has turned around to be one of the best rising stars in all of baseball. So
it's gonna be exciting, though.
I am excited. It's October is going to be an interesting time for Cleveland. You know, we could see how the Browns are rolling. We can see how the Guards are doing.
Well, yeah, you got the Cavs. Also, we start back up their season with whatever team. Who knows? It's gonna be exciting, though.
Yeah, the summer sucks, dude. The summer sucks so bad. There's nothing.
I know. I can't wait for September, not October. I'll be honest.
Oh, I know. We're getting closer, dude. It's almost there.
I just can't wait for the fall. I can't. I just can't wait for the Sundays this year, just for how everything's going to be that time. Especially if the Guardians are really rolling in the playoffs. I mean, it's going to be exciting. So.
Oh yeah.
Will be something to see. But Mike, we're going to have a hell of a fall here on the show. We're expecting a big fall on the show this year. Not only us two, but our panelists as well. We'll have everybody up here all fall, especially for the Browns post-game reaction. Maybe the hottest post-game show. We got. If you want a great post-game show, when the Brown season comes around, to come up and you can even join and interact with yourself, which is very raw and real. We come up here and rant and argue sometimes. Mike, tell me like, subscribe, and share for that.
You got to like and subscribe and share so you can stay up to date on all of our new posts, and it also helps us out. And like Joseph was saying, we do start a post-game show, and we ramp up a lot during the Browns season, or football season, rather. So stay up to date. That way, when football season does roll around, you can interact with us, ask questions, and even show up on panel to ask us questions in person.
Well said. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And I'm saluting Mike.
I am saluting as well.
Yeah, we're out of here.
Later.